I still don't have a fucking tripod. My camera's on a lamp. Well, this is a new video and I think I'm gonna give this another shot. I am in a different place right now, but I still have the same lighting, you know, kind of the same lighting. But like I said, I am not using a tripod. I'm actually balancing this camera on a lamp, which is very, very dangerous. Please do not do that. Do not try that. Okay, so the next topic we're gonna talk about on this series of videos, I guess we'll call it FGC tips. I'm gonna talk about how you could get into a fighting game and eventually improve in a fighting game. I'm only gonna talk about this from a general standpoint. In fact, I'll do later videos on how to actually improve in specific fighting games. I will be picking those fighting games. It will only be the fighting games that I play. I can't do fighting games that I don't play because it's kind of pointless to give tips on games that you don't even play. Before I get started, however, I think it's important to establish how I got into fighting games. How did I get started in fighting games? And how did I get good at some fighting games? And how did I improve? So with that being said, I've got a little story to share. Before I was even born, my father and his brother, which is my uncle, were both actually into fighting games, but they weren't exclusively into fighting games. They were into horror games, survival horror, racing especially, and sports. But one specific series that they got exposed to in terms of fighting games was Street Fighter. My dad got into Street Fighter when he went to the arcades and saw Street Fighter 2 as one of the cabinets. From there, the rest is history. My dad enjoyed playing fighting games and eventually he introduced it to my uncle, and my uncle liked fighting games. So the Super Nintendo was released in North America and my dad saved up enough money to buy it on his own. Among one of the games that he wanted was Street Fighter 2 for the Super Nintendo. Now, he didn't have enough money to buy the game, but he did have enough money to at least rent it out for a few days. So there would become a time where he and my uncle would rent out some games for the weekend and they would just play Street Fighter. And that was basically it. Fast forward to the late 90s, however, that's when the PlayStation 1 came out, and Tekken was a prominent series in the fighting game subgenre. My dad was a big fan of Tekkens 1 through 3, but he was a bigger fan of the third game, as well as my uncle. And eventually, when the PlayStation 2 came out, he did not get Tekken Tag Tournament, but he did buy Tekken 4. I was already born by this time, and I was a little kid. And when Tekken 4 came out and my dad bought it, that was the first ever fighting game I was exposed to. So yes, Tekken 4 was actually my fighting game, you know, my first ever fighting game. It's actually insane. And I get so much nostalgia from playing Tekken 4 nowadays. A lot of people say that Tekken 5 is their favorite, Tekken 3, Tekken Tag 1, maybe even Tekken 6 or Tekken Tag 2. However, my favorite is actually Tekken 4. And I feel that the first game of a certain series tends to be someone's favorite, especially when it comes to Final Fantasy games, maybe? Because my first Final Fantasy game was Final Fantasy VII. Therefore, it was my favorite. Now back to Tekken. Yes, Tekken 4 was my first Tekken game and I played the hell out of that game. There was a lot for me to love about Tekken 4. It was a good first impression, at least in my opinion. I was only a little kid, so it didn't take much to impress me. So which other fighting games did I play as a kid? Well, I also played Capcom versus SNK 2, Marvel Superheroes versus Street Fighter, Marvel versus Capcom 1, and more or less also Soul Calibur 2 because it had Link in it. And my dad knew that I loved Link, and my uncle actually loved Soul Calibur 2 as well, so he let me play it on his GameCube before actually moving on to other things and then finally giving me his GameCube as well as his games. Now, over the course of my life, of my childhood, I was not exclusively into fighting games. I wasn't good at these games, I just played them. I was just a kid. Now, fast forward to 2009, actually 2010. That was when I got Street Fighter 4 for the PlayStation 3. To me, it looked awesome, right? I knew all the characters because of Capcom vs. SNK 2, as well as the crossover games. However, I was not very keen on execution. I barely knew how to throw a Hadouken. I barely knew how to do a Shoryuken, Tatsumaki Senpu Kyak, all that stuff. And once I got Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I ended up looking up tournament videos for some reason. And then I realized that fighting games have tournaments as well. There's a tournament aspect in this genre. And after looking at footage of Street Fighter Cross Tekken, I saw how highly skilled these players were and all these combos I saw, and I was amazed, right? I was amazed. And I tried to see if I could do them by just looking at it and maybe looking up videos, but I couldn't. It was terrible. I couldn't do it. So eventually I gave up on fighting games for a little bit. I was still a fan of fighting games, but I never thought of actually trying to get good at it or playing from a competitive standpoint or stuff like that. That was until 2017, 2018 hit, and one fighting game got released from Arc System Works, and that game was Dragon Ball FighterZ. Now, I had a friend who had Dragon Ball FighterZ. He was playing it since the beta, and I guess he was very arrogant that he was playing it since the beta, so he declared himself like, I guess, one of the best Dragon Ball FighterZ players out of everyone that he knew, right? So then that got me intrigued. It was like, well, I played fighting games before. Maybe I could just play. And then I got the game and I tried it out, and my friend kicked my ass. And from there, something triggered. I didn't want to lose anymore. I wanted to actually get good at this game. I was looking at not tournament footage, but I was looking at people trying out the game, doing combos and whatnot, figuring out combos. And I was just telling myself, I want to do that. I want to do combos. I want to do the cool shit that they're doing. So I searched up a video of how to extend combos, and eventually I stumbled upon Maximilian Dude. Maximilian Dude, he is a fighting game YouTuber and he's a fighting game enthusiast. He's the biggest enthusiast of fighting games I've ever seen on the internet. So this guy, Maximilian, had a lot of videos on fighting games, especially breakdown videos of Dragon Ball FighterZ. So eventually I watched his video on how to extend combos. He explained it very clearly. Well, at first it wasn't very clear to me because I didn't understand fighting game lingo and stuff like that. I didn't understand the concept of jump canceling a move into another. I didn't understand it. So Dragon Ball FighterZ was the first game that exposed me to fighting game lingo, fighting game mechanics in general. So I would say about 2 or 3 weeks of me practicing these combos, did matches with that one friend again, and I beat him a lot. From there on, I just kept playing and playing and playing and playing and playing and playing until I got really good. I wouldn't say I'm like, oh my god, I am a god or something like that, because I've seen other people do videos and I've seen other people play matches and they're levels above me. But I will say this, Dragon Ball FighterZ is the fighting game I feel the most comfortable playing. So what came after Dragon Ball FighterZ? Well, I've always had Tekken 7, even before Dragon Ball FighterZ came out. So I decided to carry on over my skills that I learned in Dragon Ball FighterZ and see if I could apply them to Tekken 7. I could more or less, in terms of, combo game, there's just a string of buttons that you have to press. You just have to figure out a different pattern. And eventually I got good with Tekken 7, and eventually I started loving the Tekken series even more because I was actually figuring stuff out. I was actually doing combos, I was figuring out game plans for each character that I play as, and yeah, fighting games became a thing that I enjoyed so much. From there on, I started playing a lot more games. I started playing Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, all the games that I've mentioned in my previous video. Those were the games that I picked up, and many more. Now comes the next part of the video. How can I improve on a fighting game? How can I get started? Well, the entire point of the story that I told you was I didn't have a very natural start of fighting games. I didn't start playing fighting games in a competitive manner since I was a kid. I've only started in 2017, 2018, which was already the modern era of fighting games. This was after fighting games got revived after the release of Street Fighter 4. I was actually improving and learning new stuff in a place where everyone knew stuff that I was actively learning. So with that being said, the same can happen for you. We're in a modern age of fighting games. You can learn anything. I did it. Why can't you? Now with that, the big question comes up. Which fighting game should I start with? Well, I started Dragon Ball FighterZ because I thought it looked cool. So with that, go for a fighting game that looks cool. If you go for a fighting game based on other people's influences, you're not gonna have fun. You're gonna have fun with the game that you chose yourself because you thought that that game was pretty cool. It looked nice. It looked awesome. It looked flashy. It looked like it had a nice combo system. Hey, I like this game because it has a character that I think looks pretty cool. All those little things or those little reasons that seem trivial or minor, they're actually reasons that should get you into your first fighting game. So for example, if you find Killer Instinct to be a very cool looking game, go ahead, let that be your first fighting game. If a Street Fighter game such as Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5 even happens to grab your attention, play it. Try it out. No matter which game you decide to play, as long as you pick that fighting game yourself and you truly believe that that game looks cool to you, go ahead. By all means, play it. And with that, we move on to the final part of this video, which is how do I get better at the fighting game I pick? Now, I'm only going to go over this general basis. I'm not going to provide that many examples of specific fighting games because all fighting games revolve around one simple tactic to get better. That tactic is practicing. A lot of people, they don't like the word practicing. Some people just want the magic pill and just go right in and know exactly what to do. Sadly, that wasn't the case for me. I didn't start off with knowing everything off the bat. I started off being a fucking scrub. And even now, I'm still kind of a noob, but not in a bad way. I'm a noob in the context that I'm still learning new things. I'm still learning everything. I just know the basics now, and I just have to learn the more advanced stuff. And I'm still learning every day. And that's the best thing about fighting games, in my opinion, to never stop learning. Now, how should you practice? I recommend that you should at least go into practice mode, try out the buttons, make sure you know what they do. And finally, it's as simple as looking up videos. We live in a time where we don't have to discover everything anymore as long as someone else has already done it a long time ago. So you could just search up a video, search up a combo video for something, maybe search up some tips and stuff like that. The internet is a great thing and just take advantage of it. Obviously, I will have some tips once I upload a little more, but like I said, search stuff up. And for practicing, just do something over and over again. Do the same thing over and over again until you can do it without any errors. And then from there, you can slowly ease your way into real life matches, which is what I did. I started off practicing first, and I played with my friend. And then after I played with my friend, then I played on online with some randoms, and then I just kept playing and playing and playing. And the most important tip I could give you for getting better at fighting games is to not get discouraged when you lose. When you lose, people really want to quit, and they get really discouraged and unmotivated or demotivated for that matter, and they don't want to keep going. It's part of the process, guys. When you lose, you need to know why you lost, okay? Just losing and then losing and losing and losing and then getting mad, kind of not the way to go. When you lose, you have to understand why you lost. If you learn to assess those things, you will have no problem eventually winning more matches. Obviously, everyone wants to win. No one wants to lose. I don't even want to lose. But when you lose with grace, be humble, realize why you lost without sounding like you're creating some excuse. The message I'm trying to give you is that you need to learn from your losses so that eventually you can bounce back. And like I said, guys, I was not always this comfortable playing fighting games. I had to learn stuff. Same way you have to learn stuff. I had to learn everything on my own, right? While also searching stuff up. Some of you have seen me upload videos of new DLC characters that come out, and then you see me do combos maybe an hour or a day after the character's release, and you're wondering, how does he do that so fast? How does he learn so fast? Some of you may have even played against me. I have some friends who've played against me, and I guess some of them get a little discouraged, some don't, but some get discouraged that I know a character so fast. I'm trying to learn a character and then I just learn them so fast. They're wondering how I can do that, but they can't. The difference is that I've just learned to practice, and the knowledge I've gained from one fighting game carries over to multiple fighting games, which eventually carries over to even more fighting games. Practice makes improvement. Because I practice and because I improved and because I got more comfortable, I am used to the learning curve that is learning a new character, learning a new fighting game, etc., etc. Though eventually you will be able to do that too, as long as you just continue to practice. I guess that wraps up this video. I hope you enjoyed this video. This is the second time that I've done a recording like this in this kind of format, in this kind of environment, so I'm starting to get used to it. I'm also getting used to the editing process of this. Last one, I kind of made a mistake in the beginning of the video. I think you caught that, but didn't make a comment on it. I'm sorry. But I'll make sure to be a little more careful in the editing process. Hopefully my edits will be just a little cleaner, but we'll see when this video releases. With that being said, this concludes this video. This is Kevin, and I'm signing off. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. See you later.